Hello, Finn.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Today we talk about the risks of Firefish and using this peer-to-peer platform. And before we start with the risks of Firefish, please explain quickly what is Firefish and how does it work?
Sure. Firefish is an open global peer-to-peer marketplace for Bitcoin-backed loans. That means on the one side, we have Bitcoiners who don't want to sell their Bitcoin and get fiat money. So they can create a loan request. They put their Bitcoin as collateral. They mortgage a house. They mortgage their Bitcoin and create a loan request in the marketplace. And then on the other side, there are investors who have fiat money or stable coins and want to earn interest rate on this. So they can scroll through the marketplace and filter it and then invest in these loan requests. And in the end, like Firefish loans are bullet loans. That means you don't have any monthly repayments. So you only have one lump sum at the end that you repay. And the borrower repays the loan at the end in fiat or stable coins to the investor. So the investor gets his money back, including interest rate. And if the borrower doesn't repay or the loan isn't collateralized anymore, then the Bitcoin get liquidated. So the investor can always be repaid. So the investor basically gets always his money back, and Bitcoiners can get fiat money without selling their Bitcoin or paying any taxes by selling Bitcoin.
Perfect. Thank you for this quick introduction. So let's go directly into the risks. And I think we should start with the investor side. What are the risks for the investors? Because as I understand it, there is no classic default risk.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm a borrower and I want to take out a loan for, let's say, 10,000 euro, including interest rates, I would need to put Bitcoin as collateral in at least 20,000 euro. So I always need to put at least double the amount of collateral in the loan. So the loans are always over collateralized. And if the price of Bitcoin would fall by 45% in this case, the loan would be liquidated. So the investor definitely gets his money back. He even has a 5% premium on the loan, like a liquidation fee, like liquidation premium. So the investor in every case can get his money back. Also, if the borrower doesn't repay at the end, the investor still gets his money back because the Bitcoin just will be liquidated and sent to the investor. And that's basically, there's no, as you said, there's no classical risk. Of course, with the borrower side, we can talk later, but from the investor side, I think the biggest risk is just that Firefish as a website, we call it zombie apocalypse. That means that Firefish somehow disappears from one day to another. We can't operate with the platform anymore. In this case, you still Firefish doesn't give out a loan. We don't give out any loans. We don't hold your Bitcoin. So the borrower and the lender both sign a contract with each other. That means even if Firefish goes belly up or disappears somehow during the zombie apocalypse, that still means that the borrower needs to repay his loan. And if the borrower doesn't do it, the investor can legally sue him, and he would need to sue him. That's like the worst case that could happen, that you actually as an investor need to sue the person and take all the legal action. But I think this is just more like a theoretical case, because for this to happen, the Firefish platform would need to go fully down. And this is like very unlikely, because the whole keeping the infrastructure alive is just very cost efficient. So we can just keep the platform running, and we can still close all the deals. Like if we would see that we go bankrupt, for example, and we can say, okay, we don't open any more new deals. We only close the open deals right now. We can even send an email out to people. It's like, hey, please repay your loan early or something. And we can just close the open deals. So the investor wouldn't need to sue the borrower in any case. So this is basically a very low risk, I would say. Yes.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing, that Firefish goes belly up from one day to another.
And what's the risk? Well, let's go a little bit deeper into the business model of Firefish, because you said it's very unlikely that Firefish disappears completely, because even in a bankruptcy you could close the deals. But let's start from the bankruptcy. How does Firefish make money and avoids bankruptcy? Where does your revenue come from?
Firefish is non-custodial. That means we don't hold your Bitcoin, so we also can't rehypothecate them. We can't give them away, lend this Bitcoin away and earn more interest rate on the Bitcoin. Like, where does the yield come from? There's always a risk involved, so we don't do that. We can't even do it. So the only way we earn money is that the borrower pays currently it's a 1.5% per year on the loan amounts. That's like he pays a Firefish fee when he funds the loan, and that we take a percentage of that, and that's how we finance ourselves. Like, that's all the income we have in Bitcoin. That's quite simple.
So that means even so when the platform is growing bigger, you scale up your revenue, and probably your cost will not scale up in the same like linear way. That means in the future, it's likely if your platform is growing bigger that you are getting more profitable, and that it's even more less likely that you go bankrupt. Do I understand that correctly?
Exactly. Like we are already Firefish was founded 3 years ago roughly, and we made our public release in April 2024, and we already went like 2 times a break even since then. So it's a very very cost efficient, as I said. Yeah.
So you are already break even. You're already
Yes.
producing a profit.
I mean, right now we're of course investing it again in new developers, for example. But yeah, as you said, like our costs aren't increasing linearly to the income.
Okay. Okay, then okay, now we covered like the business model of Firefish, which seems from my perspective plausible, logical, that Firefish has not like a really big risk of bankruptcy. And even if they go bankrupt, that doesn't mean the investor is in risk, because you still can close the deals, and you have no technical possibility to steal the funds of the investor. My next question is, as an investor, you have either the option to make self-liquidation, or you can or you do not self-liquidation. Can you explain these two options and the risk associated with that?
Yeah. So the Bitcoin are not, like I said, we are non-custodial. So the Bitcoin are not held by us. They are held on the Bitcoin blockchain in an escrow, like just in code, you can say. And they can only go to predefined ways. So only back to the borrower, the Bitcoin himself, or the liquidation address. So there are 2 types of liquidation, as you said. One is the self-liquidation and the Firefish liquidation. We ourselves are always advocating that every investor should actually use the self-liquidation. So you, as an investor, put your own Bitcoin address there, and if the loan gets liquidated, you get the Bitcoin to your own address. So you get a loan in Bitcoin, you get repaid in Bitcoin, and in this case, you get like a 5% liquidation premium. That means if I don't know, the loan gets liquidated, wherever it defaults, or the price falls, you will get your initial investment back. You will get the interest rates, and you get a 5% additional percentage. So that's like a monetary incentive for you to actually use the self-liquidation, give your own Bitcoin interest to there. And as I said, we as Firefish can't run away with the money. We can't send it to us because it's predefined where the Bitcoin can go. That's a very important thing. If you use the Firefish liquidation, it's already the name. You would need to trust us or you would need to trust our liquidation partner, because in this case, the liquidation partner of ours would put his Bitcoin address there instead of your own address, and he would then get the Bitcoin, liquidate it. He would take the 5% liquidation fee, so you wouldn't get it. You would just get your money back, basically, as an investor, your full money back, but in euro, or the currency in which the loan is denominated. So yeah, like in the Firefish liquidation case, you would still need to trust us that or a liquidation partner, that it doesn't run away with the Bitcoin or whatever. So just if you really want to be sure, just use the self-liquidation, and then you're fine. And you also get the 5% additional interest rate if if the loan gets liquidated. Yes.
Perfect. That means you have like less risk if you do the self liquidation, and you have also like the extra bonus of 5%. So you can, even if the borrower doesn't pay back the money, you get even more money. You get like this 5% bonus. And I
Exactly.
think
Like you might be happy as an investor then if you do self-liquidation, if your borrower, your counterpart actually gets liquidated. So yes.
perfect. And okay, so I will summarize the main risks. So there is no classical default risk when using Firefish. There's no risks that Firefish steals your money if you do a self liquidation. Firefish will have never access to your Bitcoin, and there is like a very unlikely platform risk that Firefish completely disappears and doesn't do the job to decide who gets the Bitcoin after a loan is not paid back, for example. And then you have, in this case, the money is not completely lost because you still have the contract, and you have to use this contract and go through the normal legal way if you didn't get your money back. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. That's the biggest risk for the investor. On the borrower side, of course, that's also different because
Yeah, let's start with that now, the borrower side. What are
yeah.
the risks?
So that's a big thing for the borrower side, because if Firefish should go belly up, like the zombie apocalypse, then the borrower has a recovery transaction. So as I said, Firefish basically is just pressing a button and deciding who is right and who is wrong, like where a Bitcoin will go, left or right. But if Firefish, with zombie apocalypse, we all die or a bomb is exploding in our office, then you still can, we couldn't press the button anymore. So the Bitcoin are locked there in the escrow. But in this case, the borrower, the borrower has a recovery transaction. He can broadcast his recovery transaction 1 month after the loan would expire, and then he can get his Bitcoin back to his address. So the borrower gets his Bitcoin back anyway, even if Firefish disappears. Like we said, he still needs to repay the loan because he's legally, he needs to legally do this. And the biggest, this is not a risk for the borrower if Firefish disappears. The biggest risk for the borrower is actually that he, for example, doesn't repay the loan at the end, because in this case he would get a fine, let's say, of 5%. He would lose 5% of his stack. And but the biggest risk is that he gets price liquidated. So you would need, like I said, you need to put at least double the amount of Bitcoin in the escrow. So for 10,000 euro including interest rate, at least 20,000 euro. And if Bitcoin then falls by 45%, you would be liquidated. But you can immediately from the get-go, you can already put like double the amount of required Bitcoin in it. It's just the minimum of Bitcoin you need to put in. You can put as much Bitcoin in as you want to reduce your LTV, to reduce your risk of getting price liquidated. And so the biggest risk is the price liquidation. But you can immediately put like more Bitcoin in the escrow as you need to, like you need to put at least double the amount of Bitcoin in there, like 50% LTV. But you can like immediately put more Bitcoin in than required and lower your LTV. You can do it immediately from the get-go when you fund the loan. You can like maybe put double the amounts of Bitcoin in there than it's required, or you can do it anytime after this. All the time you can put more Bitcoin in it to lower your LTV and lower the risk of a price liquidation. But as soon as the Bitcoin price hits this certain level, this liquidation level, and you haven't put more Bitcoin in it, then you will get knocked out and the Bitcoin will go to the investor. So you really, of course, if you get liquidated as a borrower, that's the worst thing that could happen. You will lose money, and it would be better to not take out a loan. So always make sure that you put enough Bitcoin in there that you don't get liquidated, don't get over leveraged or anything. Just be conservative when it comes to this, and make sure that you don't get over leveraged. Yes.
I think that was a really good point, because I see it like the same way, that people might get a little bit greedy and they do leverage with Firefish. And then if the Bitcoin price falls, and then they have to bring, or like falls like in a heavy way, then they have like to add collateral so that they don't get liquidated. And if they don't have Bitcoin, then Bitcoin left to add to the collateral, then they get liquidated, and that would be like not good for the borrower. So I think that that's more like a psychological thing, that people might get greedy. So I would also recommend to be really conservative with using
Yeah.
Firefish.
And I mean, you could still like think about how much could Bitcoin still fall, like 50% or 45%. I think that's still likely. But if you put like double the amount of Bitcoin in there or triple the amount of Bitcoin, then Bitcoin would need to fall by 80% or whatever. You can lower like the liquidation price as you want. And if you put so much Bitcoin in it that Bitcoin would need to fall by 90%, I think then you're getting in regions where it's like more and more unlikely that you actually get liquidated. But yeah, so it's really up, like the risk management is fully up to you. You can be as conservative as you want, but you need to put at least double the amount in there just to secure secure the borrower and the lender at the same time. So we don't do anything higher than 50% LTV.
And do you think a risk is also that people just forget to pay the loan back? How is Firefish like inform the customer that you have to pay it back?
We send you multiple emails before the loan expires. Like we starting with 2 weeks before the loan expires with the first email. But like when you set up the loan, you can also, for example, download a calendar export, so you can like put it in your calendar, and you can get a actual notification on your Google Calendar, for example. So that's also one thing. And you should, it's just your own. You're self-sovereign as a Bitcoiner, so you should also take care of your own loans you take out. So it's also up to you, but we will remind you, of course.
That's amazing. And what you told me that 5 people approximately, they didn't pay back their loan, so they got liquidated. Do you have any information why they didn't pay it back? Did they just not have the money, or what was the reasons?
Like for example, one guy, he didn't really understand that he needed to repay the loan before the maturity date. I mean, everything is written there that you should do it. So this was a kind of stupid mistake you could avoid. And at the other side, there was also one guy who just said, yeah, I know I'm defaulting. I don't care. My financial situation changed. So he didn't care about his 5% penalty fee. He just let it default and didn't care. So I think it's more like people who just forget about it and are just not too careless. And if you do this mistake once, and then you know, oh, I shouldn't do this again, and you learn from your mistakes, right? So
okay. Yeah. Perfect. Then I have another question to risk. So what is the risk that, I mean, you Firefish, you can't steal the money, but there is still the risk that you get like compromised in some way. So for example, what do you do to prevent that a hacker comes and like takes control about your process? Who is getting like the money? For example, if I'm an investor, and or if I am like the borrower and I don't want to pay the money back, and if I try to hack you to take control of the process so that I still got my Bitcoin back and don't have to like pay back the loan. Do you know what I mean?
you mean that you basically accept the loan as it is? You accept loans and mark them as repaid? You mean on the platform?
I mean, you decide who is getting the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I can try to compromise this process. And what are you like, how do you prevent that I like try to hack you, or like, yeah, do something to get control about the process?
In the end, we still need to interact with the Bitcoin blockchain. So there's like you can't really hack us from outside. Let's say we still use multisig and everything. We actually signed a transaction, and we would still need to sign a transaction actually physically, or like not physically, but you can't just hack in the platform and do it. You would need to actually sign the transaction. So this is like
So in general, like, I mean, a part of the risk is also like what are the people behind the company? So how do you describe the company culture? Is it more like a Bitcoin only culture, or are you like more like a crypto company? And do you think about adding new cryptocurrencies which you can borrow against them?
yeah, like if you can borrow against your Ethereum, I wouldn't be here. So it's a strict Bitcoin only. So we won't ever have Ethereum or other coins, shitcoins as collateral. The only thing is that we started our global product a few months ago. That means that we are available everywhere in the world, but we are not available, that we don't have fiat support everywhere in the world. So that's, and to accelerate this global adoption, we implemented USDC with Ethereum. So this is one option. Like, you don't need to use it, but for some countries, we only have right now this USDC option, the stablecoin option. So this you could consider it half shitcoiny. Yeah, I mean, I also don't like it, but there's just, as soon as there's like a good stablecoins and Bitcoin, we of course would do this. But it's just I mean, right now stablecoins are just a good way to scale. And
Okay.
I think that's the most shitcoiny thing we do. But otherwise, we're Bitcoin only, and we're toxic maximalists. So don't don't worry. Yeah,
Okay, that's good to hear. And your headquarter is in which country?
it's in Czech, in Prague, in Czechia.
Okay. So I think that's enough for today. I'm summarizing. So there is, from an investor perspective, there is like no default risk, no classical default risk. There is the risk that the platform disappears, which is quite low, and then you have to go through the normal legal way. And from the borrower side, there is no risk, basically, because you can, even if Firefish disappears, you get like the recovery transaction, and you can always have access to your collateral. So from the borrower side, it's more like this psychological thing that people are getting too greedy and might get liquidated, or forget to pay the loan back. So it's more about like mistakes from the user, which are too greedy or too careless. And you are a
Maybe just also
Bitcoiner.
to add that in
Yeah,
theory, I mean, in theory, we could still, you need to trust us, of course, that we press the right button. I mean, you could repay your loan normally, and we've just pressed the wrong button, and it's going to the investor. This of course could happen, and I mean, that's like, we have every incentive to not do so, because if we
okay.
press the wrong button, we would make our company go bankrupt and lose our customers and lose the trust. So that's our biggest thing. We should never press the wrong button, let's say. But in the end, like, there is no solution, like really, like there is no trustless solution possible, because it's just the Oracle problem. All the fiat transactions and everything that's work, like if the loan is repaid or not, it's not written in the Bitcoin blockchain. So you need to put it. It's external data that you need to put in there. It's the Oracle problem, and you always have someone who needs to put the data in the Bitcoin
Yeah.
blockchain. And this is always requires trust. And whoever is saying, no, I can do it trustless, it's just not true. Like, you always require trust. Well, what we are doing with Firefish is we try to minimize this risk, this trust, because we don't have an incentive to scam you, and that's like that's the way we go.
And did you
Yeah.
do an error so far, or was it?
No, we didn't. No,
That's good. So of
we
course
also never dispute.
that's a good point, that there is like, of course, a chance that you do an error. And yeah, I think we should wrap it up now. Thank you for joining, Finn. If you as a watcher want to support my education work, you can use my code Praxmatiker if you use Firefish, and you get 30% less fees if you are a borrower. And that would be great to support my educational content. And this is not financial advice, it's not financial content. I'm just an educator. And thanks for watching. And thank you, Finn, for your time.
Thanks for having me.